Yeah, it is on here. There we go. Okay, welcome to the Sunrise School Division regular board meeting for March the 21st. My name is Paul Mang. I'm the board chair. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7:03, and we're going to have O Canada from École Beaujeu Earlier School. Please stand if you can do so. Mr. Liskey was just about to jump out and scream with the O Canada there. I saw that. Merci, École Beaujeu Earlier School for O Canada. We have a treaty acknowledgement. I'll ask Trustee Boytson for a treaty acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Trustee Boytson. 2.1 adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. Then move in our seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, second by Trustee Dent. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. So thank you. It passed 9-0. My apologies. I should have introduced in the room. We have 7 trustees that are here with us. 2 trustees are online. Trustee Nicol and Trustee Rowland are online with us. In the room we have Superintendent Timko and Secretary Treasurer Thiessen. We have Assistant Superintendent Lars Ilberg. We have our board support Mrs. Bonato, and we have the admin staff from Edward Schreier School with Lonnie Liskey, Erica Massey, and Jamie Witzke. Certainly welcome to everybody that's here. I didn't miss anybody, did I? All right. 3.1 is about chair's comments. So if you have any questions to the million people that are here listening to your presentation tonight and online, I'll send all the questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca. Please your name and address of the senders to be included in the email. And I know that there's probably more than, since they know that Edward Schreier is here presenting, Lonnie, so there's lots of people going to be listening online. We have Share a Story, so I'm going to open up the microphone to Share a Story from trustees. Anyone? Trustee Rowan?
I'd like to start out by giving a shout out to SCI, who is having their Sabre Games this week. These are an awesome activities where they promote school spirit, school community, and engage students in friendly grade-to-grade competition. I also wanted to congratulate Michael Baker, a staff member at SCI who cracked the Winnipeg Free Press 100 Most Interesting Manitobans list this year. I printed the last page and handed it out to each of the trustees. Michael Baker is a student services teacher at SCI in Oakbank. Baker authored Manitoba's introductory high school course on disability studies. This year, a new accessibility sign was installed in the school's parking lot. This is significant. The updated image of an individual in a wheelchair depicts a person in motion, not static and stationary. It's revolutionary and important. Symbols that represent disability as active and powerful is a massive step forward.
Thanks, Trustee Rowan. Anyone else? Trustee Dent?
I just wanted to congratulate all the girls basketball teams that attended the basketball tournament at École Edward Schreyer School today. I was able to take in a couple of games, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun. I also wanted to give a special shout out to the support staff and cast of Mystery at Shady Acres, which happened last week at École du Louvre. So that was, I believe it was Thursday last week, or Tuesday, so I was able to take in one of those shows as well, and it looked like it was, well, it was really well attended. It was sold out the night that I was there, and I believe the other night was sold out as well. So lots of fun, lots of learning, lots of excitement. So thank you to those people.
Anyone else? Trustee Smith?
Mine is actually regarding the conference we were at. So I attended 2 sessions, and I gave everyone handouts with some information that I learned. The first one was understanding the relationship between mental health and learning. I requested the PowerPoint presentations. Once I get them, I'll forward them to everybody else. So basically, I learned about self-regulation, which is basically the control of oneself by oneself. And I gave some information as well for 5 different components of emotional intelligence. I'm not going to read my whole spiel because it's actually quite long. Let's see. So basically, the research says that mental illness is critical for youth under the age of 18. Approximately 20% of Canadian youth are affected by mental illness or disorder. In Canada, 1 out of 5 children receive appropriate mental health services. The second one I went to was a session in care and education by the Canadian Mental Health Association. They actually do presentations. They will come to you at no cost, not even travel costs, and do presentations to your employees on mental health. So it's actually a great resource. I'm going to give everyone the information on that once I get it. So we also learned about ACEs. So ACEs is a scoring system that is based potentially traumatic events before the age of 18, such as neglect, experiencing, and witnessing violence. Let's see here. So I gave everyone a scoring sheet so they can look at what the breakdown of ACEs is. Okay, so ACEs can negatively impact physical, mental, emotional, and behavioral development. And this is something that will continue on in your adult life, actually. Like depression, smoking, drug use, everything that happens before the age of 18 and your ACEs score will negatively affect your adult life. So I did give everyone all the information. I encourage you to read it all, and I hope we eventually reach out to Canadian Mental Health and get them out to do some education in our schools.
You're raising the bar, Trustee Smith. Good for you. Yeah, no, awesome. So that, just to share with people, is that trustees did go to the Manitoba School Board Association conference last Thursday, Friday, and that's the conference that she was talking about, so thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Trustee Nicol.
Okay, I just want to know if you don't know ahead of time, but on March 14th, which is last Tuesday, was known as Pi Day, spelled P-I. This is a mathematical day dealing with the pi. What Whitemouse School did with all the students, or what they did, they had a challenge to see how many could remember all the digits of the 3.14. Of course, if you know about that, it goes on indefinitely, so no one has ever recited them all. But they were supposed to recite by memory. We had students as young as grade 2 participating. The most that one of the students memorized was up to 100, which was quite good. And then after the challenge, they had some pumpkin pie taught. So it was something that was quite interesting for the students.
I'm sure you're pretty happy about everybody memorizing the pi thing, were you not, Trustee Nickel?
Well, definitely.
That's right. Thanks very much,
I
Tom.
was not 100 though, but that was pretty good.
Thank you. Trustee Harris.
So our own Trustee Nickel, who just spoke, was recognized at the MSBA meeting last week for his 16 years of service as a trustee with Sunrise School Division. Congratulations, Don.
Thank you.
Superintendent Timko.
I just wanted to share an email that I got from the Powerview principal to our transportation manager. She said she meant to send it a little earlier, but we're in report card season, so she had a couple of delays. It says, I want to sincerely thank you and your team for going above and beyond and helping us navigate getting our students to the high school hockey finals ×2. It meant so much to the boys on the team to have our students there cheering them on. We realize the last-minute trips are difficult, but what they do for our students is truly amazing. We will personally thank Kelly and Dan, who jumped in without hesitation. So they managed to get some fans out to the game, and work together to make that happen.
Anyone else? So I want to share two stories. One is kudos to the staff and students that have coached at Springfield Collegiate, their high school hockey team, at Edward Schreier for your high school hockey team, at Lac de Bonnie for your high school hockey team, and for the staff at Powerview School. All schools represented very well, went very far from semifinals to finals, and kudos to the work that people have put in, certainly over 25, 26 weeks of time. So thanks to your staff, Lonnie, certainly for sure about going ahead and doing that. And last night I had a chance to call bingo at Powerview School for a fundraiser. So do you know what? I was back in my element again, calling bingo, and I had all kinds of fun talking with people, and they raised just under $1,000 for the students at school for the breakfast program. So kudos to the people and the parents for going ahead and doing that. And yeah, I told them that I was more nervous going to call bingo than I was about passing a $74 million budget last week. So it was kind of interesting. Anyways, thanks for certainly sharing the story. Did I miss anybody? Okay. 4.1 is delegation. Kath, you have some crew here.
So we have the principal of École Edward Schreier School, Lonnie Liskey. He has his two assistant principals, Erica Massey and Jamie Witzke, with him to talk to us a little bit about their numeracy program happening at École Edward Schreier School. So I won't take any of your airtime. I will be your tech support and let you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Everyone can hear me all right. As already stated, I'm Lonnie Liskey, a proud principal of École Edward Schreier School, and Jamie and Erica. And I want to thank you all for inviting us today to present. If you could change the slide, Kathy. Just in case anyone's not familiar with École Edward Schreier School, we're a grade 6 to 12 school here in Beausejour. We have about 696 students, and like most schools, that changes weekly. We have 85 staff members, including 43 teachers, and we're dual track, which includes French immersion. And I did want to go on the record to say that our students are awesome. So today we're going to talk about the Numeracy Achievement Program, which is fully implemented in our school from grades 6 to 9. That means every kid that takes math from 6 to 9 is taking the Numeracy Achievement Program. So we're going to discuss that by answering the questions, and I hear some feedback, by answering the questions, what is NAP, how did we get here, how are we doing, and then what's next as we continue to implement the program. So starting out, what is the Numeracy Achievement Program? It's basically a structure tied to outcomes. Push that away. Is that better? Is that good? Better? Okay. So it's a structure that's tied to outcomes that promotes student engagement and, of course, student learning. The key components is the lesson structure, which happens every class, is the warm-up, the work phase, and the consolidation. There's a pacing guide, which are pictured there, which all of our teachers have. And there's formative assessments, which allow us to implement responsive interventions based on results that we're getting from our students in their quizzes and such. So the keys to NAP is, one of the keys is following the pacing guide, so every teacher's on the same pace, and this was one of the hardest things that to implement, was telling teachers, okay, you're not quite there, but you got to move on. And the formative assessments and online tools are another key point. Manipulatives, so kids are using math manipulatives quite often, physical ones as well as what we're now starting to do electronic ones, so they can use it on devices and such. And then we talk about following the pacing guide, which is pretty strict, and maybe not everybody gets there. We do a lot of spiraling and reach back to go back to outcomes and make sure that the kids are getting them. And that's based on whole class, small group, and individual instruction, again targeting certain outcomes that kids may not be getting. And then unintentionally, one of the biggest things that we found has been a key to NAP is the collaboration and teamwork. That wasn't the purpose going in, but we found that's been one of the biggest keys to the successful implementation of the Numeracy Achievement Program. So how did we get here? From invitation to expectation? Before I get quite into that, Kathy, I just want to introduce some really key members on the next slide here. Really important, as you all know, to have the right people kind of heading this. And we have Ryan Swan, who's our numeracy team leader, and he's a grade 9 teacher that's been using that for several years and acts as a mentor for many of our middle years teachers, often going out of his own classes to do demonstrations and showing grade 6, 7, 8, 9, or 6, 7, 8 teachers how to take risks and just try things. He's been very instrumental in implementing this. Of course, you know Alan Stevenson, and I'm just going to call him the coach. So he does what every good coach does from A to Z, and he has been an absolute rock star in doing this. And Sarah Reed is a grade 6 teacher, and the reason I brought her up was because there was some hesitancy from our grade 7 and 8 teachers because they're taking on a lot, and now we've asked them to start changing the way they do math practices and implement a new program. And with some hesitancy, Sarah, a grade 6 teacher, masterful teacher, stepped up at one of our staff meetings and basically just stated, this works, you need to give it a try, and was very brave in front of, like I said, 43 staff members. So that was a big turning point for us. Turning this here again, we talked about invitation to expectation, and that's a Kathyism, I guess. Mrs. Timko brought that up at the end of last year, that NAP would be an expectation. So our grade 6 and 9 teachers were already doing NAP. About 7 years, they went to the U of M for a bunch of PD and started NAP and stuff. And then as the school was moving and transitioning to have all grades do that, of course, COVID hit, kind of paused. And then that last year was like, we need to get back on here. And it's expected that every teacher from 6 to 9 is doing NAP. Of course, 7 and 8, I'm going to say there was some reluctance there, or at least hesitation, as we're getting back into things and people are already overwhelmed. And of course, that leads to us that we had to give a lot of pressure and a lot of support. So our focus this year was solely on our grade 7, 8 teachers, because we felt our grade 6 and 9 teachers, there was a lot of buy-in and they were doing a good job. So at grade 7 and 8, after last year, we again, expectation. I met with Ellen over the summer and to plan for the year. So by September 6th, we shared with our staff, this is now an expectation. It was kind of like a whammy thrown in their face going, we're going to be doing NAP this year and everyone's expected to do that. We also added an overview and specific dates, which gave a sense of urgency to our staff. And then consistently revisited NAP throughout our PD days and staff meetings. And used a lot of evidence-based data with positive testimonials, particularly those from grade 6 teachers, grade 9 teachers, and our middle years resource teachers, who also fully buy into NAP. And I just want to mention Alan Stevenson has spent a lot of time at our school, along with providing clear expectations, classroom demonstrations, grade level meetings, and one-on-one visits.
So some of the obstacles that come along with telling the staff that we're overhauling basically their entire numeracy program in September were expected. We had quite a few staff members who had a lot of hesitancy. Our 7 and 8 staff were a little bit reluctant to jump on board right away, but we did have those very strong leaders. Some of the risk-taking and teacher confidence in overhauling a program, a lot of people kind of took a step back and went, well, now I'm not as confident as I had been to teach this numeracy program or to teach math as I had been. Some of the attitudes that we were facing were things like, why fix it right now? Why, if it ain't broke, why fix it? They're doing a great job, and we did. We had really good teachers, and they were doing a fantastic job. We had students who were learning, but the fact was that they weren't at the level that we thought they could get to. And I know Alan had spoke about some of our grade 7 and 8 students hitting maybe 40% of the outcomes, where that's not enough. That's just not good enough. So we figured that, we decided that implementing NAP was the thing that we were going to be doing. One of the other obstacles that we looked at or that we identified was finding subs. We know that there was a shortage of staff from September to Christmas especially. We would have days where Alan would be coming in to work with our grade 7 and 8 teachers, and we would be short 8 bodies. So it was up to us to provide the internal coverage. We were in classrooms ourselves just to make this work for our teachers because we felt that it was really important. The funds, we had allocated funds for math toolkits for every student in middle years, as well as open questions by Miriam Small, which was a resource that we provided to all middle years teachers, along with time. Time is money, so that was something that we had to make sure that we found enabled or to be able to invest in this program. The word program itself gives some people a little bit of hesitancy. We had vet teachers who would just kind of sit back and go, well, this one will pass as well, or we'll just wait till the new program comes out and I'm not jumping on board. So the word program itself provided us with some obstacles to overcome. And then obviously time. Teachers don't have this luxury of time often, and this was something that we were looking to them to invest some of their time into to learn, because as much as we provided them with the supports in-house, it really was a lot up to them to figure out how to implement those best practices. It came down to just being good teaching. Our best practices, hands-on learning, outcome-based assessment, outcome-based instruction, and it really utilizing those responsive teaching practices and getting the kids those hands-on experiences. This is what that program was aiming to provide. So how are we doing? We started the year with a lot of hesitancy. We started the year with staff members who were anxious about entering this process, but with a lot of support and a lot of work with Alan and our team leader and us walking into the classrooms and ensuring everybody had what they needed to be successful. We have 100% staff buy-in. At this point, everybody is following the pacing guide. Everybody is using their math toolkit, some more than others, but they are out in every single classroom in our building. We have every middle year staff member who has completed the second formative assessment, which is right on track to where we're supposed to be right now. This provides, provides a lot of opportunity for the collaboration, as Lonnie had already described. We've got cross-grade collaboration because everybody's aware of where these grade 6s should be at this point, where the grade 7s should be at this point. The grade 7 team can sit down and plan for workshops, and we can have, if we've got time with Alan available, well, we can say they should be basically right here, all working on the same thing. Let's prep some lessons together and some activities. So it really is, it's providing them with some really great opportunity, and they're seeing kind of the fruits of their labor, which is on the next slide. This is just a sample of our data from the quiz 1. So our formative assessments are ongoing. They're not the summative. So the summative is a bigger quiz that's at the end of the year. The formative assessments are kind of to plan for instruction. So this is what our grade 7 formative assessments, comparing the first quiz to the second. They're 4 weeks apart. Those are the instruction blocks, are the 4 weeks. Our first quiz, as you can see, and even without being able to read any of that on there, because apparently it's very small right now, but with just looking at the color, the green means that they passed, essentially. So the students passed, they met those outcomes, they were able to explain their understanding, and they did well on the quiz on those questions. So from quiz 1 to quiz 2, you can see that green. If you can see nothing else, there's a lot more green on the second quiz. And that's the data that we're looking at right now. We're not looking at the big picture data as of yet because we don't have it. We don't have the students from grade 6 when they started, because we have students who have done it in grade 6 4 or 5 years ago, but we didn't track them through grade 7 and 8, and that's where we're headed. Right now, some of those grade 6s are in grade 9, so we can kind of look at that, but that's not going to give us the big picture that I would like to give all of you right now, so we're looking at a snapshot. And this snapshot is showing that our responsive interventions, our grouping, which is on the next slide, Kathy, if you don't mind, our groupings by using that data and inputting it into our instructional planner, you can identify exactly which outcomes our students are not meeting. And it's not a matter of they got 7 out of 10. That means nothing. It's the 3 outcomes that they didn't meet. Well, where do they go on here and which other kids did not meet those same outcomes? And instructing those small groups and those individuals. So it's really using that data rather than just looking at it and going, oh, great, we did 80%. Well, what about those other 2 outcomes and which kids aren't hitting those? And if we're continually seeing that, how do we change our practices? And how do we really tailor our instruction to help those kids meet those outcomes? Okay, so now that we've had a successful first year with having all of our grades 6 to 9 math teachers using the NAP program, we just wanted to give you an idea of where we see this headed in our building. So we did call this Continuing Our Journey Embedding Best Practices, because the NAP program really is about using the best instructional practices to make sure that we are reaching all the students in our classes. So in order for us to build this into the culture of our school as just part of what we do, what we value as good teaching. We're on a 3-year journey with Alan right now so that we can fully ingrain this into the teaching culture, teaching practices of our school. So Alan is going to continue working with us next year with doing some mini residencies in our building. So that means he'll come periodically and he'll do a targeted lesson in a classroom. We'll invite other teachers who teach math to watch that lesson, and then he'll meet with them to support them collaboratively so that they build their instructional toolkits as well. We've also really noticed the benefits of having dedicated time for our staff to collaborate together. So within their grade level groups, making sure that we are building them the time so that all of our grade 7 teachers can get together to specifically work on NAP, build lessons together, share resources and ideas, but also some of that vertical collaboration. So for example, having Ryan Swan or Kelly Shaefsky, some of our grade 9 teachers, get together with our grade 6 or grade 7 or grade 8 teachers so they can share their ideas as well. It's also great for just accountability because NAP is based around a pacing guide. It basically sets out which outcomes you should teach. It gives you the order of the outcomes, how you should be teaching them in order, and how much time you should be spending on each outcome. And as Jamie mentioned, because all of our grade 6s are at roughly the same place, all of our grade 7s and so forth, it's that accountability piece that we've been noticing as well. So we want to continue to build on that success. The biggest difference, in my opinion, in terms of teaching practice with regards to NAP has been using the data to inform your instructional planning. So our teachers have access to those formative quizzes that happen about every 4 weeks, and it gives them detailed information about where some students might not be understanding exactly what outcomes are not being understood, and then teachers can specifically plan to reach back to one of those missed outcomes and do direct instruction with a small group of students or even with individual students to reteach some of those concepts. So it really is a way that teachers can use what's actually happening, that actual data in front of them, to inform their planning and their instruction. And yeah, as Jamie said, time is important. So making sure that when we do have admin and PD time, that we're building in targeted numeracy, PD, and time for our staff to work together. One thing that we are trying out right now and looking to use going forward is Braining Camp. So currently, all of our grade 6 to 9 students have a toolkit, which is physical manipulatives that they can use for different activities in math. Braining Camp has a lot of digital manipulatives and resources that students can access. So it's just another way for them to do some hands-on learning.
in terms of where we see this going with our students, again, it's using that data to specifically inform what they are learning in every numeracy class, every numeracy lesson. So not only does that help us for classroom planning, but also when we're looking at the bigger picture transitions from one grade to the next grade, we as an admin team can use that data to help us build classroom profiles and classroom placements as well. Increased engagement for students. With the NAP program, there is a very specific way to structure your numeracy lessons, so they always start with an activity, their kind of warm up, their math stretch activity, which is high engagement linked to the outcome. Then they do their learning, and then they consolidate, so then they wrap everything up. We're using manipulatives much more often. It's engaging, different activities each class, much more engagement from our students, and it's really helped staff and students build their growth mindset. So yeah, concepts are difficult now, but we have all these different ways that we can work on it, and we can reach back and touch on all these outcomes again. And we really have noticed already a big increase in our numeracy skills, again, because we're making data-informed decisions about which outcomes we need to revisit. And we're also approaching numeracy in different ways, which will hit different learners. We are expecting that our June baseline results, so that's our big end-of-year assessment, will show improvement over our results from the previous 2 years. And we've seen increased achievements from quiz 1 to quiz 2. We're, again, expecting to see that trend continue we get to the next formative quiz. And just to end, we wanted to share some teacher feedback from some of our teachers. This first example was from a teacher who was very reluctant at first to try the NAP program, but I don't know if you want me to read it or not. I'll let you read it. So again, an opportunity for a teacher to get out of their comfort zone because they normally would not teach fractions first, but they had to follow that pacing guide. And here's just one more piece of teacher feedback that we collected. So just a couple little snapshots of some of the success that our teachers have been noticing.
So thanks, the three of you, Lonnie, Erica, and Jamie, for that. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Smith.
Okay, I have a couple. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I like that there's the staff feedback. Is that, do they have to put their name on that, or is that just genuine feedback? You don't know who said it. It's just feedback.
Are you talking about the 2 quotes at the end? Yeah, those were unsolicited. They were emailed to us, actually, earlier on in the year, yeah. So we know who said it, yeah. And that's why we were like, it was good feedback because it was, again, one was pretty hesitant about using this and took a leap of faith.
Okay, I was more wondering if people who don't like the idea, if they feel comfortable voicing their opinion. Like, I really don't like this, but you don't know who it is. Like, that's, I want to know if they feel comfortable enough.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And sometimes we talk about that. I think our staff sometimes feel too comfortable with us. They do tell us whether or not they like what we're doing and where we're going, and we do, have those conversations with them. And it was a really tough go, as we talked about with our 7-8 teachers, because we're telling teachers to try something new who've been teaching math for 15 years and going, I'm doing a really good job. And we're going, yeah, you are, and now you're changing. So we did have those honest conversations behind closed doors, and they weren't always comfortable. You know, and at the end of the day, it was about taking a risk, and again, a couple of those key teachers going, you just need to try it, because they had the same credibility. It wasn't coming from us, although Jamie has actually implemented the program as a teacher, but it wasn't coming from us. We're saying, you should do this, and they're going, oh great, another program, but then other teachers are going, no, you really need to do this. So we do get a lot of honest feedback, and we continually invite teachers to give us that feedback, so it wasn't always, you know, we knew it was a really tough goal for the first 2.5 months. I would say was a real, at times it was, you know, a little bit of a battle. So when we talk about being support, we were also really making sure that they were jumping in whether they liked it or not. So sometimes you have to get through that muckiness of it all.
What about student feedback?
Another really good question. You know, the growth mindset is what I like most about it. You know, I talk a lot about, you know, just the students. It's not always just about academics. It's about, you know, growth and development and being a better person and stuff. And the growth mindset piece of it is what I notice most when I go into classes. And I think, you know, both the other principals would agree that when we go into classes, there's kids who have struggled in math throughout their whole life. And when you go in there, they're pulling you over to show you what they're doing. And there's stuff they're doing, and I felt I was pretty good at math. You know, and there's stuff they're doing, they're showing me stuff, and I'm going like, I don't even know how you just did that. How do you got that answer by using manipulatives? And they're fine, you know, one of the pictures up there shows them doing things in 2 or 3 different ways. And I think that's one of the important things is like, you know, they're learning how to figure things out. And it's not just, I'm good at math or I'm bad at math. So that's the feedback I got mostly from students is when I walk into rooms and some of our weaker students are pulling you over going, hey, this math thing is pretty cool. You know, kids like to use the hands-on stuff.
Okay, I'm not done yet. Sorry, guys. People who know me know I'm huge on mental health and also on Native studies. Do you have any special programs or what assistance do the students have for mental health? And I do have one more question after that, so go ahead.
That one? No? I don't know, you know, if we have any canned programs per se on mental health right now. We have a heck of a resource team along with counselors and stuff, social worker, you know, everyone that's involved in our teams are really strong, so we do a lot of that type of stuff. I think we put a lot of focus right now into school culture and sense of belonging and that type of stuff that isn't necessarily a program. You know, and I think that's one of the reasons we invite, you know, trustees and other people into our buildings is come walk around and visit and kind of see the vibe that we're getting here. I think we went through a lot of tough years, and I talked about that last year with COVID and stuff. It was really difficult, and I feel like we're starting to build momentum again in positive mental health and that type of stuff. I'm not going to say I think it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get back to where we need to be. You know, we talk a lot about bringing in, we use Project 11 and that type of stuff. But we talk a lot about bringing guest speakers and all this stuff in, but those are a lot of one-offs, right? So a lot of our programming we want to actually be done in classes because we can talk about programs and this and that. We keep telling staff is that we want I care messages. So we're at a high school and a lot of time, well, middle year's high school, but even our high school teachers, we stress all the time. How many kids have you told them that you care about them? So even when kids come to the office, we're like, you know, this can't happen. I really care about you. And so those I care messages I think are really more important than any, you know, type of program we can have. And I think a lot of our high school teachers have even really bought into that. So when we look at the relationships between students and staff, to me that's the most important thing in helping students with their mental health is that trust and rapport they'll have with staff. So I think we're on a really positive slope there. I don't know if you guys want to add anything, because I know we're always talking about this stuff.
Yeah, to add to that, our counselors often do presentations to our classes. So we have a middle years counselor and a senior years counselor. And we do a lot of, like Lonnie was saying, special, oh, am I good? Oh, lots of kind of special guest speakers. We recently had Chris Garner from the Emotional Literacy Project come in and do a session with about 30 of our high school kids about social emotional learning and biology, which was really well received. We also had our student council plan some mindfulness activities and wellness activities a few weeks ago. So there's a lot of different layers
right, relationships, our counselors, our resource team, and also those guest presenters.
Thanks, guys. Others? Questions? Oh, you want to go again?
You had one more.
Okay.
Told you I'm not done yet. Okay, this one is, sorry, I'm hard on you guys because my kids go to your school. What makes your school special?
Well, no, I mean, what's that? You know what, I say our students are awesome, and they are. Our students make the place special. I mean, when we go around the hallways, we have tough days in the office some days, and what we need to do is, all of us will just get out of our chair and walk around the school and say hi to students. And if you come to our school, we're high-fiving students, we're fist-pumping students, we're cracking jokes with students. I think our students is what makes our school very special. I also think that the culture that we're trying to provide in that we're here to serve our students. At the end of the day, we talk about growth and development and doing what's best for students, and I think they've had that common message for 3 or 4 years. Again, COVID was a very difficult time for us, but that message still existed, and I think that our students, we will continue to tell them that we really care about you, and these are the expectations, and it's all about setting up for success in school and after school. So, also, I think that we try to provide any opportunities they want. So we talk to our students quite often and say, what do we need to do here? Something like, I'm not a chess guy, and all of a sudden our chess club is unbelievable. We have kids from grades 6 to 12 playing each other in chess, and there's, tournaments, and we had, I think, 4 or 5 kids to go to provincials last year or last weekend, and 4 of them came home with trophies as being a top 3 and stuff. Those opportunities are provided. You tell us what you need, and we'll make sure that we are connected to our school some way, because I think that as long as kids are doing something they enjoy at school, because not all of them are going to fit into the academic framework of the classes, I think if they find something they enjoy at school at some part of the day or some part of the week, I think that's certainly going to draw them to school and make it a more special place, right?
It really is incredible. Sorry if I could jump in, but just being new to the building, walking in and going, oh my gosh, we have almost 700 students in this building, and feeling almost overwhelmed at the size of our actual physical building and the amount of bodies that are in it, but the fact that there are so many adults and staff members that are out and showing that they care, they show the students that they care, that it makes that large number seem a lot smaller, because it seems like a closer, tighter-knit community than you would think for such a large facility.
Thanks. Trustee Reed?
I noticed under getting better staff, you mentioned collaboration and accountability. I was just wondering, does that tie into Braining Camp, and what is Braining Camp?
Yeah, so Braining Camp is basically online math resources. So it's digital manipulative. So instead of having physical blocks or Cuisenaire rods or whatever else, it's like on a computer screen, so kids can access it on a phone or an iPad or a computer. So it's just another way for them to access manipulatives or give them different opportunities to explore math problems using different materials.
Anyone else? Trustee Harris.
Are other schools using NAP?
Yes, it's a divisional expectation. So yeah, other schools are using it.
So your collaboration is division-wide then, and teachers are able to meet and share, and you have competitions between schools as to which school is doing better with results and so on?
Anyways, thanks to the 3 of you. You're the largest school, so we let you talk the longest, Lonnie. So I'm going to ask you a question though, and I'm only going to give you a couple minutes to answer. And the question is, so in front of your trustees here, it's really about what are some of your challenges and what can we help out with in some of the challenges that you have. But you can't talk long.
If we're going to, I guess, Ron, if we talk about NAP, our biggest challenge would be teacher turnover.
I don't want you can talk about NAP. Okay. I want you to talk about it.
You know what, one of our biggest issues right now is construction, right? as much as we want to have this beautiful school that our kids can be proud of. It's, you know, we've been in construction now for, I'm going to guess 4 or 5 years before I got there anyway. From the inside to the outside, it's always something, right? And nothing is really moving along in the time frames that it should be done. So of course that, as much as you want to have that positive atmosphere, I mean, that matters. So the inside is getting pretty nice now, and now we're going to wait for the outside. I know that's not really, you know, in anybody's hands, but that's really a difficult spot for us. I mean, every day you're walking into a construction zone. I mean, the pride you're going to have in your building is very different than once it's done, and you can walk into this beautiful building. So this has been, like I said, 4 or 5 years, so it's not just student frustration, it's staff frustration with what they've been through. Every time they go to their classroom, something's moved because the workers come through, and sometimes there's probably 50 of them on, you know, and they come through and they do whatever they want, and they're not concerned about what the classroom looks like or where the desks are or where the bookshelves are and that type of stuff. They have a job to do. So that's probably been the toughest to go in terms of just generally, if I could fix anything right now, that would be number one. Yeah. I would say our kids, I again, if I could bring it back to them, I'm very proud of them. We talk about all the time about how proud we are that they're behaving at any given time. You walk through our school and you got 694 kids in classroom smiling and behaving. You know, other times you might have 3 or 4 in the office, but but you know, in the big picture of things, we talk about those all the time. The kids are smiling, they're happy, and they're behaving. And a lot of times we're not getting into fights with them. You know, we're not arguing with them. We talk to them and we problem solve with them, and then we move on with our day. And I think that whole collaborative approach between staff and students is really, really important. And I'm happy I have a chance to kind of bring that up, because I think that's another thing about Edward Schreyer School I'd like people to know, is that we work with our students, and there's very little of this, right? So.
Right on. Thanks, Lonnie. Trustee Harris wants to share. Okay, we won't head that downhill as to where we're going. Lonnie, Erica, Jamie, thanks for coming in and presenting to us. We certainly do know that you've got you're our largest school, and yeah, you know what, you've got some challenges, and certainly about some of the things, but thanks for sharing this. Yeah, go ahead, Gath.
I just wanted to add one piece. You know, you talk about how you have those opportunities, and it's a great place for kids. They do a lot of fun things, and they are respectful. But that also is because you guys set a pretty high bar in terms of what it is they need to do. So that accountability piece behind the scenes is pretty important. And you're right, you do have kids who are smiling the majority of the time, but I've also walked into the building where we have some kids who may be having a rough day. And those kids who aren't smiling or having a rough day have one of the 3 of you beside them, or one of your student support team beside them, reminding them that tomorrow's another day and that we can try this again tomorrow. So I think that's just an important piece of how you roll that's probably not seen as much as normal, but that's an important chunk. And thanks for picking the right Kathyism. We don't want to use the other ones.
I think when you have 696 kids, there's going to be the odd kid that's going to have a rough day, and you know what, it's about how you're handling it, and it's the relationships that you're talking about, Lonnie, so kudos to you and your staff for going ahead and doing that. And thanks certainly on behalf of the school division for coming and presenting. We're always trying to get as much information, and you know what, I think that we do want to get into your school. We talked earlier tonight about the construction part, and your frustration is shared with the board's frustration certainly about it. However, you live it every day. We don't live it every day. So again, do we want to thank your staff for going through that? Yeah. Nobody wants to look and see sky outside, or you know. But again, you guys have been troopers. So thanks certainly for the work that you're doing there. We appreciate it. Anyone else? Final comments? All right. Thanks very much, guys. And Lonnie, we do expect that you're staying for the ladies can go, but you're going to stay for the rest of the meeting, Lonnie, as to where we are. Just kidding you. Thanks very much. Have a good one. Appreciate it. Nice meeting you as well.
Thank you, everybody.
We're going to move on with our minutes. We have minutes from March the 7th of our regular board meeting. Be it resolved that the board adopt the March 7th board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Reed. Any questions to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0. Thank you. We have the superintendent's report. Kath?
Yeah, very briefly, one of the first things that I'm going to share with you is a little piece of the Sunrise Learning Framework. So it is over in the corner, and this is one of those support pieces that you would have heard in the presentation and that are allocated to all of our schools. So the student support team is a pretty critical piece that includes resource teachers, guidance counselors, reading recovery teachers, and instructional support teachers in schools. And we make that decision on how schools get that staffing based on both student needs and student count. So that's a pretty important piece. There's a neat program that we have underway where we have 4 of our high schools, Edward Schreyer, Lactabani, Powerview, and Springfield, who have attended now 2 in-person sessions. They'll do another session in May, and 1 more virtual with a program where they are doing drone training. They will do some research in the area of agriculture at the end of it, and so it's a really neat program that both Jody Wilgosh and Patty Watman are working with students from those schools, and we hope to bring them to show you what they've learned. Thursday, 2 days from now, we have our next tour date, and so we're going to head out to a called Powerview School, Lactabani Senior in Springwell Colony. Reminder that spring break is coming up this Friday, so it is Spirit Week across a lot of our schools. Those of your students who are digging into your tickle trunks and grabbing all of the Halloween costumes and colored clothing they can, that's because it's usually Spirit Week this week. We're back to school on Monday, April 3rd. Schools are closed for Good Friday on April 7th, but it is pretty important to know that Easter Monday isn't a holiday that school divisions are closed, so we are open for Easter Monday. Students entering kindergarten should also be registered at their catchment school, so it's pretty important, and now to the end of the school year, it comes pretty quickly. We have been working pretty actively with families, and they have been doing an early years assessment with each and every child. Families have been receiving feedback from that assessment, and they also get a series of fun materials that they can take home in form of like a kindergarten bag where they can work on some of their own readiness. I feel like we're early, but never early enough for if we have a schools of choice application. So we have catchment areas where you live decides that you absolutely get to attend your catchment school, but should you choose to attend or wish to attend a school outside of your catchment, there is a schools of choice process, and May 15th is a pretty important date because we take a look at all of those and try to make decisions about whether we can accept schools of choice from within our division or outside our school division. Just a reminder, and I'll keep that one on there for the next little while, but a schools of choice date is coming up pretty quickly at May 15th. Unless there's questions, there's my report.
Questions for Kath? Anybody that's calling in, Dawn or Diane? Okay, Trustee Smith?
Just one. Since it is Spirit Week and we're attending certain schools, can we find out what their special thing is on the day we're going in case we want to participate?
I can ask. I think a couple of our schools, Springwell Colony won't have a Spirit Week, probably. Lactabani has a special activity plan for you that won't involve dressing up. Do you know what Powerviews is? No? I can find out for you if you'd really like. Yeah, they're all different all over the place. I'll see if I can find out for you.
They're on the website, so I think that a lot of them are posted on the website with regard to what they're doing, and I've seen Powerviews a few times, and so I could share that as well. Yeah. And they do expect you to get dressed that way for Powerview? Just kidding. Okay, thanks for that, Kathy. We're going to move on. The draft reporting schedule is there for information. It's something that we know that we have there. It's for you to read. If you need anything certainly from that, you can go ahead and share. But that draft reporting schedule is there as to what reports are coming up. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. We're going to move on to the Secretary-Treasurer's report. Jody?
Share my screen here. Okay. I just wanted to bring the report's kind of lengthy. There's a lot of things going on in the world of operations. So I'll just highlight a few things going on. Transportation, they do have their propane buses and they're on the roads. We're hoping to get some data collected and bring that forward to the board later to update them to see what the outcomes and how efficient these buses are. We also had March 15th was a bit of a challenging road condition day. There's 3 cancellations of the runs, or 3 canceled runs that day, But I do want to say thank you to all the bus drivers and mechanics going out there working during the challenging weather conditions. I know there were some families out there that had their fingers crossed that we were going to cancel school that day, but fortunately the weather turned around and everybody can head to school and back. So, but I do want to say thanks to the bus drivers and mechanics again for their hard work out there that day. There's quite a bit of items on maintenance plate right now in regards to capital plans and capital projects. I know one question that's come up a little bit in the last little while was where are we at with the science lab project. So at the time I was preparing the report, Powerview School, or I should say Whitemouth School, received their occupancy permit late Friday afternoon on the 17th. So at this point in time, we're just waiting for the deficiencies to be fixed, but we can still gain access to the classroom. Powerview and Lac Du Bonte Senior, my understanding by the end of today, the occupancy forms or permit has been completed and will be submitted. So the goal is, it took about a week and a bit for Whitemouth to be approved. We kind of expect a similar timeline. So by the end of March, we should have occupancy for Powerview and Lac Du Bonte Senior. A lot of things going on for the module classrooms. So about this time last year, Beausejour Early Years, Dugald and Oakbank Elementary received confirmation that they will be awarded a module classroom. So at this point in time, we're looking at having the tendering documents issued, and the schools are preparing to determine how many desks and how many computers or what kind of smart board they need in their classroom. So there's a lot of discussion right now amongst operations and the school to find out how to furnish those classrooms. As you can also see, there's a number of other things on the go. For the stair lift at Hazel Ridge, Cooper Rankin has been selected as the architect, and they will be preparing the scope of work, and the goal is to have the tendering documents out late April for a construction in the summer, have that for their timeline. Again, as we saw the presentation from Edward Schreier School, they have definitely struggled with the challenges of construction. And again, we have been talking with the contractor and the province on the scope of work and the delays in the project. We've been identifying the dates where the school has either PD days or spring break or even Christmas break. We were in discussions if we can have their construction workers on site when we don't have school. So we do have the contractor coming in to do some front work on the door. There is some defects to the door that was installed, so they'll be repairing it over spring break. We haven't heard additional work that they plan to do, but they still do have a few interior, I guess the millwork around the windows, things like that. So we are struggling with working with the general contractor. They do not seem to come to the table when we want them to work a timeline with us to not interrupt the classes. So it has been difficult. And we've provided that feedback verbally and in emails to the province, identifying the struggles. The next stage of the process would be submitting a formal concerns based on a performance evaluation on the contractor. And I think that's kind of it. If anybody has any other questions on what's going on in operations, feel free to ask.
Do we have anything for, Alicia, go ahead.
I just had a question, like back when I used to deal with this kind of stuff, we had a payment schedule. You had to do A, B, C, D before you got your first check. Do we have anything like that set up?
Yeah, so we have to go through the general, so we have a general contractor and we have also an architect firm that does it has to have A, B, C, D met before we issue payment. So we've actually haven't issued a payment in a while, just because of the process, they haven't completed some things. So the timing of payments have definitely, they've arrived on time when they were requested, but it is based on what's completed. And yeah.
Trustee Smith, that's an interesting comment because I've had parents and kids and some staff say, Paul, do you sign checks? Why are you going to go ahead and sign a check for these guys? Hold off and get them to get to work at it quicker, which is kind of interesting. But you know what, as we've talked, we're trying to move people as quickly along as possible with things, and thanks to Jody for the work that she's doing. Anyone, other comments? Okay, thanks, Jody. We're going to move on to 8.1 is our bus purchase. So be it resolved that the board approve the purchase of up to 2 buses in the amount of $387,598 plus any taxes and fees. Be it further resolved that the board approve the transfer from the bus reserve to support the purchase of the buses. I'm going to move in a second. A move by Trustee Boyton, seconded by Trustee Dent. Any conversations to that? Sorry, Trustee Rowan.
In the background information, it says, as our division is so spread out geographically, we send our newest and most reliable buses to our more remote locations, Powerview, Lactabani, and Whitemouth. Is the expectation that we will be looking at adding a propane refill station in one of the further school division or school destinations to ensure that our newest buses are at the most remote locations are able to fuel, or what is the plan there?
That's a really, really good question, and I know we will have to have those conversations about where are we putting those propane fueling stations. If it turns out that the propane bus does bring a level of efficiency and fuel economy to our operations, that is something we could be considering. The logistics part of where it's best to be stored and kept and maintained and secured, that would be another conversation. So I don't know when it came to planning the purchase of propane buses, if the idea was eventually we'll roll our fleet 100% out to propane. But at this time, when we do purchase buses, I think for the next couple of years, it'll be a combination of propane plus gasoline until we make that concrete evidence that it's beneficial to be fully or move more to propane. So it definitely is a question that we will be considering down the road. Yeah.
Anyone else for Jody? Okay, thanks, Jody. I haven't called the question, right? Any other questions to this? Any questions from Dawn or Diane?
Paul, can you hear me?
Okay, hearing none, we'll vote.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Sorry, Diane, are you asking a question?
I would like to ask, oh, sorry, now you can hear me. I would like to ask, on the list of buses that Jody has provided, as our total fleet is 117, but it doesn't include the propane buses in there? Like, just wondering why? Oh, you couldn't hear me?
I think at the time this report was prepared, we did not have the propane buses in use. I think the report came forward in the beginning, or was prepared in the beginning of January, because we usually submit the request to purchase buses. So we did not, and good observation, we did not note that the propane buses were also in our fleet.
Sorry, Dawn or Diane, anything else? I know I've called the question, but I know it's hard. I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak to it because I know it's hard that you're remote. Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to call the question, and thanks, Stacy, for doing that. Let's go ahead and vote. So it passed 9-0. Thanks for doing that. Where are we? We are at strategic plan. So again, we said that once we finished where we were with budget, we would start moving ahead with this. It's something that's on the radar with Kathy. We will have something or put something together. We did say, a reminder that when we did to put the note that's on here, we did talk about there were 3 priority areas for us. So as we move forward, we are moving forward with our strategic plan around those 3 priority areas. If you open up the document, we're talking about the 3 priority areas. One is educational literacy and numeracy. One is about social emotional, it's mental health and well-being. And the one is relational, community and cultural engagement. So we did say that that's what we believed in as a group. If that's changed, let's talk about it, but otherwise, that is where we're going to go structuring the conversations that we're going to have around our strategic plan. So I'm going to leave that to everyone here. Do you want to make a comment about it? But those were the areas that we talked about. Have those areas changed for us? I haven't given you the chance to talk about that. Don or Diane, anything there? Okay, so as you read on here is that now that we've agreed to, well hopefully have we agreed to it? I just want to see heads nod. Have we agreed to that? All right, so we've agreed to it. So Don and Diane, are you okay with those priorities?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we will move to the next step, certainly. So we were looking for about once approved, you can see it on the report. And so do you know what, approve the domains, looking ahead in the April calendar to looking for a meeting date. So what we said is April the 27th for us to get together for a learning session, for us to go ahead and do that. Again, we talked about Tuesdays and Thursdays. Look to your calendars about April the 27th. And about us going ahead and putting it into your calendars. Once we're agreed on that, I'll get Stacy to put it into your calendars. We will have a meeting to go ahead and look at that based on those domains. April the 27th. Okay. So that's where we're going. Kathy and I will continue to do some work certainly on it. Kathy's doing the bulk of it, but we will work on that. But the 27th then, Stacy will get that out to us, and that is for us to go ahead and do some work as a learning session for ourselves around our strategic plan. Thanks, Kath, for the work for this. Where are we? The electoral ward boundary review. Before I read out the motion, so I've had a couple of people come to me and say, do you know what? Can we potentially talk about this before we put the motion on the table? And so I'm just making sure about with process. It's not about the actual motion, it's more about should we spend some more time talking about why we're going ahead and doing this. So does anybody want to comment on that you've talked to me about it?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
Well, the reason why we're doing it, according to the Public School Act, it says that if anybody asks us to review the boundaries, we have to. We had a ratepayer ask us about 2 years ago to review the boundaries. So according to the Public School Act, we have to review the boundaries because there is a inconsistency about the representation in one ward, which is way below what the Public School Act. So that's the reason why we have to review these boundaries.
Thanks, Don, for saying that. I can tell you that Kathy did remind me of that as I put that down, is that we have been asked and for a review from a group from Springfield, I would say 12 months ago. And it is in the Public Schools Act about trying to balance, I'm going to use the words here, about looking about balancing certainly our wards. So I think that's part of I wasn't aware prior to it, but that was something that people shared with me this morning, today, so thanks, Don, for doing that. Does anybody else want to comment? Okay, so here, sorry, Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Excuse me. I hear what Don is saying. I think maybe it's because I'm a newer trustee, I find it a little bit challenging to kind of allot what we were talking about in the form of time and resource. I don't know of any boundary issues. I haven't heard of any myself. I mean, I didn't take that concern from that candidate. So, and when I look at the geography of the school division and the population of the school division, it seems fairly equitable already in looking at the guidelines that were provided for us. So I guess that would be my position on that.
Again, I'm looking for guidance. Trustee Boyton?
I'm just looking at that 57.1, and it does say that subject to subsections 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, a school board may, by bylaw or on the petition of 10 or more resident voters. And it always talks about may, it doesn't say that we have to. So I'm just wondering, do we have 10 or more resident voters that were questioning this?
So prior to this board, there was a letter and a petition that was shared, and then the board at the time said we're nearing the end of our term and feel like this is probably the work of the next board. So that petition did arrive. We wrote a letter in October of 2021 letting them know that we would look at that. I think that's when the request was, and then the board at the time said, let's make sure that the next board does a look at that. I think that the ad hoc committee is going to do this work and make that decision about whether they are or are not going to make, and they would bring that recommendation back here to the board as a whole. So I think your point about, yeah, the school board may do any of those things, but they may not. And that would, I think, be based on the work of the ad hoc committee and what they find.
Further, Trustee Reed?
Yeah, I know I was kind of one of the agitators for change. I know that, well, we've had a lot of problems between Whitemouth and Lac Du Bonnet with there's a bus that goes out there, and there's a large number of children that used to be in Lac Du Bonnet's area, and the bus would go across the highway and pick up kids, go down Totem Road, and then come back to Lac Du Bonnet, which is only a distance of about 8 miles from Lac Du Bonnet. And the problem that was happening was that there were, I believe at one point there were 17 kids who were in the Whitemouth pickup area, but they were all going to Lac Du Bonnet. And their parents work in Lac Du Bonnet, they play hockey and all this kind of stuff in Lac Du Bonnet, and they shop in Lac Du Bonnet. And the parents are in a bad situation because they either have to take their kids to Lac Du Bonnet and then well, they don't get a babysitter, but they can't put the kids into the school, and if it's 28 below, you don't want your kids standing outside. So a lot of them were taking their children to work, and people would say, well, why don't they just send them to Whitemouth? But most of these people had to drive their kids because they didn't want them walking over the highway. And the bus refused to go, couldn't or wasn't allowed or whatever, to go over into the Totem Road area. And so they had a muster point there, and a large group of kids, and some taxpayers would say to me, well, yeah, he says, I drove by there and I saw all those kids and I wondered what they were doing there.
So Russ, I want to get Kathy to explain the difference between a ward boundary and a catchment boundary. Okay, so I'm going to give Kathy the microphone and talk about the difference between a ward and a catchment.
So Russ, I think you're talking about the catchment of where students attend school. And so the discussion that we're having right now around ward boundaries is the boundary for how each of you get elected as trustees. So it's not a catchment boundary review. It is that boundary review for where is your electoral voting boundary. So what you're talking about is an issue for sure, but that's the catchment, not the ward boundary that we're talking about right now. If that helps.
Yes, I was aware, I know that, but I just, I think that's sort of my agitating about that is maybe what started this up. I'm not sure, but...
So fair enough, the issue certainly is around busing, but busing doesn't, when the issue certainly is ward, is electoral, is where the 9 of us come from with regard to electoral, and then there's catchment, and catchment is decided by us as to where we are about our schools and our buses and those things. That's decided by this group here. The ward boundary is eventually, yes, it's part of the Public Schools Act, but it's certainly then for electoral purposes. Alicia, your hand up.
Is there, do we have to do this? Because we aren't per our ward. We are elected that way, but once you're in, I care about your school as you care about my school. So for me, that doesn't matter to me. It's just, yeah, you'll vote for me, but it doesn't give me any more power over a topic than anybody else in a specific area. So I'm just wondering if the wording could say may. It doesn't mean we have to bring back a recommendation. I don't see the necessity and all the extra work in another ad hoc committee, because I don't see how it makes a difference, because we're all here for the school division, not for our individual ward.
Can I say something?
You can.
Well, I believe the Public School Act says we can, and if we don't do something, I can guarantee you those ratepayers are going to petition the provincial government, and the provincial government's going to tell us to do it. I mean, a little bit of work was done a year ago about there, and I agree. There's only one word that has to be fixed, and that is really my word. If you want to keep my word the way it is, I'm representing only 1,700 people. So I have a vote with representing 1,700 people. Other people like Russ has about 3,500. If you're satisfied with that, that's fine. But I think what's going to happen if those 10 people, because I read the Public School Act a little bit differently, it says that you must do the review. It says that you don't have to do the changing necessarily, but you have to do the review. And if you don't, I believe that these people will go to the government and make us do it. So I would like to be proactive than being reactive.
So my suggestion will be is that let's have some more discussion on it before we, what I don't want to do it, well, we can do it if that's what we want. We can put the motion on the floor and it can get defeated or passed. But I do think that there probably needs some more discussion amongst ourselves about it before we vote. I'm seeing some heads nod around the room here as to where we go. So we can table it or we can move forward with it. I'm certainly open as to where we are. Trustee Boytson?
I would like to make a motion to table it because I don't feel like I'm prepared yet to vote on this one way or the other.
Okay, so we need a seconder to table the motion, seconded by Trustee Smith. We're going to table the motion. So discussion on, what's that? So discuss about tabling the motion. Anybody want to comment to it?
I would like to amendment to the motion.
Okay, so maybe Trustee Harris is keeping me on track. So we haven't even brought the motion to the floor yet. Sorry, that's my fault. And then Lorraine.
No.
Well,
No, we haven't. Don't worry about. Lorraine made a motion, so that's the motion we talked about, not the motion that's here. I'm taking amendment to Lorraine's motion.
Okay,
she made a motion.
Thanks, Don. So right now, Lorraine has made a motion to table the ward boundary review. What you're doing is now you're asking for an amendment to that motion. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I'd like to table it until the second meeting in April.
So I need
when you table it.
Okay, so I'm asking Lorraine if you're fine with that, I'm asking Alicia if she's fine with it, and they are. So, the motion is to table the electrical ward boundary until the second week, can we get a date, Stacy? April what? April 18th. Don, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we need to vote on the motion that we're going to table the electrical ward boundary review until April the 18th. We need to do this by hand, I'm assuming? So, Trustee Rowan? Yes. Trustee Reed? Yes. Trustee Smith? Yes. Trustee Boyton? Yes. Trustee Dent? Yes. Trustee Harris? Yes. Trustee Magna? Yes. Trustee Nickel?
Yeah.
Trustee Rowand?
Yes.
All right, so it's passed. Superintendent Timko.
So one of the things that when we table a motion is, I want to just ask, is there any further information that you as a board require for that discussion or decision on the second meeting in April?
Trustee Dent.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. That's where my mind was going to. I want a little bit more information about how many people brought this to the board. I'm confused as to the date because I hear Don saying maybe a year ago. Kathy, I think you said October of 2021, so I'm kind of curious why this is coming up kind of mid-year 2023, even though I get that there was some conversation that this board handle it, but just those kind of things would be pertinent. I think if we had made those promises already, then maybe we should follow through with those promises. So thank you for that.
Trustee Dent, Trustee Boyton.
I'm just curious, where were those people that petitioned, where did it come from? Was it from the Whitemouth area or was it from another area?
Get that information. Anyone else? Further information? Thanks, Kath, for bringing further information. Trustee Smith, I'll come to you next on.
I just had a question. The people making the petition, do they understand the difference between electoral and catchment?
Do you know what? We'll bring it forward and we'll try to see. Trustee Nickel?
All right, I'll answer the two questions. First of all, most of the people that signed the petition was from the Oak Bay, Springfield area, and there was people on there that were quite knowledgeable, so they did know the difference between catchment and ward. They were talking about ward. They know the difference. One of them, at least one or two of them were former trustees, so they did know the difference.
Okay, so right now we have tabled amended the motion. Have we called the motion? We voted already, so it's tabled. All right, so there we go. And you have, Kathy has the information, so we're good to go. So we're going to move on. Thank you for doing that. Chamber of Commerce Community Use of Schools. Kath.
I think this was an item from last meeting that we wanted to potentially discuss, and it was around what is our policy or practice for community use of school facilities. So I've included the procedure, I've included the form, and I've included the guidelines. We did speak a little bit about it in terms of in our schools, we have a community use of schools process, and we do need to make sure that any organizations that use our schools have the appropriate insurance. So you'll see on the form there that there's an insurance box saying for these activities or these kinds of things, we need to have insurance. If there is an activity that's running outside of the hours that cleaning staff or custodial staff are there, then we need to charge for someone coming in and cleaning the school. There is some in-kind work, so sometimes the groups will do some of their own cleaning. It will give us a damage deposit, and if they do a good job cleaning, then we don't have to bring the custodians in for that. But the big part about this is that there is an insurance component. We try really, really hard to make sure that any of our non-profit groups we try to partner with, we will direct them to rec commissions, or if they have their own insurance, then they don't have to go through the school division insurance. But if we have a for-profit organization, then they are charged some of those fees up front. So I wanted to bring that information so that you had all of the information in terms of what do we do. It is not a money-making venture. It is a cost recovery procedure.
Comments from anyone? Trustee Boyton.
I was at the, we had a table set up there at that event, and I was told that they understood that they were, well, first of all, they were unaware of the cost. They said that they understood that the school would be free. They also said that they thought the costs, that had they known that the costs were going to be as high as they were, that they would have found a cheaper place to have it. So my question is, did they sign something? Were they fully aware of the cost before they actually booked it? Like, it sounded like they weren't. So I'm just not sure where that's, where that's at.
Yeah, so it was definitely brought to my attention. We found out at the business center that this facility, or they were renting our facility because we saw it in the advertisement. They did not complete the documentation. We request that the forms are completed, I believe it's 2 weeks ahead of time, so we can make sure the insurance is in place and we bring the fees to their attention. Because if you are going to rent a facility on the weekends outside of our normal cleaning time, usually there is a cost to that. They have used our facilities before. We had discussion about the cost of insurance, and there is usually fees surrounding that. The Chamber used our facilities before when it came to debates for the election, and there was discussion on making sure the correct insurance was there. The fees for custodians were waived because it was happening during the normal times of our custodians being in the school. So for the Chamber to identify that they did not know that there was going to be costs associated with that, the school, when they allow them to use it, usually prepares the form and provides it to us. So there's usually a discussion at the school level as well with the user group. So I am surprised that they claim that they weren't aware. I know that there was discussion in the past when they were using the facility.
I can answer a little bit of that. So they knew that there was a cost. They were hoping, they were talking to me about it, trying to see was there a way that we would waive the fee or if it wouldn't be a fee. But they knew about it. They had talked to Mr. Dell certainly about it. Mr. Dell told them that, you know what, he doesn't have the power to say, no, you can't do that. There was a fee. So there was a fee. They were just hoping that through myself, they were going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what, we weren't going to charge them. I said, well, it doesn't work that way, but so they did know. Okay. Trustee Smith.
I just actually had a question. Do we provide the space, but is there any way, like, if they needed to rent, like, a projector or, like, a power cord, that kind of stuff? So if a group came in, do they have to bring everything themselves? Do we have, like, a rental agreement that we could rent out certain things if they don't have them? I'm just kind of thinking in the future use.
So on the form, they would indicate if they need gym mats or if they need a projector, and we just do those things in kind.
I think, Alicia, I think that schools, when they come in, if people come and rent, you know what, schools will lend things out. If they leave a school a mess, the next time that's not the case. You kind of lose that privilege. That would be fair but I think that our school's been more than accommodating to a number of groups to let them use some of the facilities as to where they are. The biggest issue is about charging for custodial fees. Here's the idea. We have 500 people go through SEI. Do you know what? On Monday morning they show up and 500 people have made, washrooms or whatever. They're not ready for our kids to be there because on Friday they clean the stuff, and on Saturday, it's not necessarily as clean, and so that's been some of the reasons behind that. We can change a policy or a procedure or whatever if we want. They're here hoping that, someone's going to make a motion for us to go ahead and waive the fees. Comments from anyone?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Trustee Nicol.
I think that if the Chamber of Commerce had worked with the school and had a joint career fair, then there would probably be no cost. So that's something they can think in the future, is maybe the two identities can work together as one, and then there would be no fees if that's where they want to go, because the school never gets, if the school puts something on, the school is never charged. No one gets charged because it's a school event. So if the two organizations work together rather than probably working separately, we wouldn't have had the problem that we have now. And that's why sometimes cooperation and collaboration is a good thing.
You know, that's a great point, Don. On the flip side of it is, who were all the kids that came into the school? It was the SEI kids. Who were all the parents that were there? It was the Oakbank parents' kids. So I hear you as to what it is. We would need to have the staff that are there, etc. Yeah, I understand. You know, if we could go ahead and do joint things, yes. Great idea. Anyone else? Anybody comments from there? Trustee Smith.
I don't know if this is a question or something I can ask. I have a group that would probably want to, can I put that request in, or am I not allowed to do that? I'm just curious.
So, community use of schools, if Trustee Dent wants to bring a dance group to Hazel Ridge School, Trustee Dent can fill out a community use of school forms and go ahead and try to use Hazel Ridge School. Now, would have to go through the process of going through, you know, the division office and the school, those kind of things. But, yeah, that would be the process for us to go through. Right? Yeah. Anyone else? I think that communities of schools is always a good one because we see our buildings and they're vacant, you know, on a Saturday. The issue is, do you know what's Monday morning going to look like? And if Monday morning can look like where it's, you know, what it was left like on Friday, those are always great conversations to have. But it's happened too often where Monday morning didn't look like Friday after left because we had a tournament there. And, you know, we needed to clean buildings and those kind of things and stuff. Did you want to add anything to this? Okay. All right. Anybody want to then move from that? Anybody want to make a motion? Okay, let's move on. Grade 9 to 12 credit attainment. Kath?
Yeah, so this is one of those things that is a regular part of our reporting, and we take a look at some of the data that comes in from grade 9 to 12. So I'm going to grab some really big highlights because I'm, you know, deteriorating fast over here, but I'm trying hard. All students in the province of Manitoba need 30 credits. 30 is the magical number for them to graduate. Some of those are compulsory, so in grade 12, I've got a whole box. Some of the credits are compulsory. So in grade 12, a student needs to have their grade 12 English, their grade 12 math, and their phys ed. Everything else are electives. They might need to have some grade 12 courses in order to follow a program in university, but they would work with their guidance counselor on what are those credits that I need to work for Manitoba Hydro or to go to U of M or those kinds of things. But 30 is a magical number, and they've got to hit the right compulsories in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. We do have different timetables in Sunrise, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this because at first glance you might say, wow, that's not very equitable, is it? Powerview, Lactamani, and Weightmouth are smaller high schools who have 8 credits per year. So they have a semester system where they have 4 courses in the first and 4 courses in the second semester, and we really can't break it down any smaller than that because of the number of students that there are. If we were to try to have a 5 and 5, the number of students in classes becomes really teeny tiny small, and then the kinds of things we can offer disappear. So it is really a factor of how many students are in the school that dictates that we can do sort of a semester system with 8 credits in each. That decision about how we jig the timetable in each school is a school decision, and we work with school principals around what works for their school to maximize the number of credits that they can offer. Springfield Collegiate just recently went from a 9 credits a year system to their 10 block system. So they used to have 4 full credits in the first semester, 4 full credits in the second semester, and this magical E-band that ran all year long, which gave them a 9th credit, and it kind of wasn't working for kids, and it kind of wasn't working for courses. So they went the leap and did the 10 credits per year. Edward Schreier has been at 10 credits for a decent chunk of time, other than in grade 9 where they only have 9 because they do full-time math. They've identified that they have some issues and some struggles at grade 9. It's kind of a hinge point, so they do full-time math at grade 9. It's across the entire year, and they get 1 credit for double the time. The PowerPoint that you guys have or that's attached to here kind of takes you through where are all of the grade 9 students at the end of semester 1, where are they at grade 10, where are they at grade 11, or where are they at grade 12. The executive summary I would share with you is that our students are achieving above what they need. They've got more credits in the bank than they need, and a lot of our grade 11s and 12s will bank those credits so that they can take other things, or they can work, or they can go into the apprenticeship program. Those are pretty important things in our division, and they tend to stack their grade 9 and 10 years to do that so that they have enough in grade 11 and 12 to open options or to head out and do some of the world of work things. As you roll through the slides, you'll see the grade level, which kind of tells you the what's possible, how many credits are possible, and then how many along the next set of slides. You'll see sometimes that there are students who have no credits or who show up with a blank for a number of credits. Sometimes that may be that they've just started their school year with us, they've come partway through the year. Some may be on an individualized program and we haven't pulled those out. Some may have been homeschooled in the past year, and so we have to kind of navigate where those credits if they're coming back to join us from homeschooling. We do dig into that. We also may have some that are incomplete because they still get a chance to work on some of those credits even though the semester has closed. A teacher may be working with them on how do I bring up my grades or bring in that work. Most importantly, our schools take this data really, really seriously because that last bullet is that grade 9 credit attainment on the first go through is one of the highest predictors of successful completion of high school programming and graduation and going on to post-secondary. So this is a pretty big one for us. I think that it's super important that we also look at this notion of 5-year and 6-year high school completion being an A-OK plan for students. That whole idea of you got to get it done in 4 years is probably the way of the dodo, and it needs to be that we can stick around for a little bit longer if needed. That lets a grade 9 student potentially have a work period. That lets a grade 9 student spend the time they need at getting those credits and having success in grade 9 as opposed to not passing a course and potentially giving up on that high school credit work. So I just wanted to walk through a couple of those things, and I won't go through the PowerPoint.
Questions for anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead, Trustee Nichol.
I'm looking at the PowerPoint. I think the PowerPoint, and I don't understand slide number 2. It says possible number of in-class credits to be attained, and it says grade 9 only 4.
So if I take a look at that slide, at École Edward Schreyer School, because the grade 9s are taking math all year long, they wouldn't have finished their math, so they would only have 4 in the bank because math is ongoing all year long. At Springfield Collegiate, they run an alternating section for their phys ed and their music, so they also wouldn't have a complete credit because of those alternatings. So in semester 1 in grade 9, the max possible credits that they could attain at the end of semester 1 would be 4, and it's even across the board. Does that help, Don?
Yeah, I say I didn't say anything about semester 1, so that's well on the slide it says grade 9. So I was thinking at the end of June, because it doesn't say anything about semester. But I understand now what you mean. I'll read it more carefully, and I know what you're getting at. You're talking about semesters now.
So, Kath, my question would be, how many of our schools run courses that run all year long that are only 1 credit?
I think right now, Edward Schreyer is the only one who runs full-time math. I think that Springfield Collegiate is looking at doing something like that, and sometimes it's a math and sometimes it's in English, and that would be the school decision kind of based on how are our kids succeeding at that or not succeeding at that.
So I think that that's, for trustees, that's a real important point to what we're talking about, is that some schools are making decisions and so when we're talking about a full year math, instead of 110 hours to get a grade 9 credit they're taking 220 hours to get a grade 9 credit of math. They're taking twice as much time to going ahead and doing it. There are many schools that go ahead and do that. What they need to do is they build their timetable, they get X amount of teachers' time, X amount of teaching blocks, and then they decide from there as to how that's going to be put together. Fair? Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. 8.6 is a snow removal services. Be it resolved, the proposal number 15-2, snow removal services, be awarded to the lowest compliant bidders for a 5-year period, November 1st through to October 31st, 2018, with an option to 2028, thank you, with an option to review for 2 additional years. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Comments to it? Trustee Harris?
This is a 5-year period. Have we always done 5 years in the past, or we have? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0, thank you. So here is a mileage, resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees set the divisional mileage rate at 52 cents per kilometer effective April the 1st. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowan, seconded by Trustee Harris. How about if I let Jody talk to this, and then we'll let trustees talk to this, because this is a pretty important discussion. Go ahead, Jody.
Thanks. I provided a report that kind of outlines trying to bring the mileage rate up by 2 cents. I brought a report forward back in October advising that we're going to hold still on the mileage rate only because of the volatility of the markets at that time and the fuel rate. And at that time, I didn't know the impact on our budget other than it'll be about a $9,200 hit to our budget. When reviewing our mileage rate, there's a lot of consideration that comes to it when looking at should we increase it. Even the consideration, do we think about decreasing it? Fuel prices is one factor, but not only the only one. We look at what the cost of maintenance for a vehicle. This could include oil changes, repairs, parts, things like that. The cost of tires as well. All those costs have gone up. Definitely going to your local shop, you've probably noticed that repairs or just a simple oil change has gone up. So those are considerations when it comes to what's the cost per kilometer we want to reimburse our employees for. Other things that I've looked at, and other school divisions and public bodies consider the National Joint Council, what those costs are. Then those are reviewed usually every 6 months for sure, and in the more volatile period, sometimes more frequently, like a 3-month period. So that was reviewed, as well as the CRA's reasonable per kilometer allowance rate. That has seen an increase. So when factoring all of those into should we increase our budget or increase our kilometer, that was considered. I've also looked at and tapped the shoulders of our neighboring school divisions to find out what they're paying. So we're not at the highest of the high, and we're not at the lowest. We're kind of in the middle range. But all other school divisions do have a period, usually it's twice annually, they look at their mileage rate just to make sure that it is in a fair range for their employees.
Thanks. So this is a pretty important motion, so I'm going to give the motioner the first opportunity to speak to it, and we'll give everybody an opportunity to speak to it if they would choose so. Melissa?
I think that Jody did a good job of outlining things in her report. I know that in other areas that I work, that we are below. So I don't have anything else to add.
Thanks, Melissa. Russ, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I guess we can always change it if we're not happy with it. I know right now the the federal government is giving 52 for income tax. And that seems reasonable. The only thing is, from what I see on the business channel and everything, the price of gas would likely be going up. So I don't know, maybe in 6 months it could be way, way higher. I don't know.
Thanks, Russ. Trustee Smith?
My question is in the future, like potentially when we are trying to get teachers in the area to come in, is there any way in the future we might be offering like a stipend for mileage in the future down the road? So right now it only affects some people, but it could potentially affect a lot more in the future if we ever do go that route trying to bring in teachers. They would get the same rate as well, so it's potentially a lot more if we do go that route, right?
So I think that any time that we go and compensate teachers, it's part of the collective agreement. I hear what you're saying, and now as the teachers bargaining unit, it's out of our hands as to where we are. But Kath, you can join in, or Jody, you can join in. But any time that we talk about compensating teachers for if we want to track them for something, to give them a bonus or give them a signing bonus or whatever, it's part of a collective agreement.
The casuals are included in that too, or are those just the people who have a certain point or whatever? Like if anyone who just picks up a shift every now and then, is that in the agreement or are they not in there? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so the mileage here is for individuals that we're going to reimburse should they go for work outside of their normal area. So it's usually for PD. Another one would be if our IT techs have to go, say from Beausejour, and they have to go all the way to Powerview, that's not their normal place of designated work. If we are reimbursing folks which we don't have staff to attend just to go to work. We don't have that. That's not identified in the collective agreements for our QP groups or our STAs. So that means our secretaries, EAs, if they're going to work, they're not reimbursed for their mileage to their designated spots. Should they, though, attend a PD session, that's where we're going to reimburse them. So if our secretary attends a PD session in the city of Winnipeg, we'll reimburse them, and that's where this mileage rate comes into effect. We don't have subs coming from outside of our school division to attend and substitute, and they're not reimbursed for mileage. That's outside of the collective agreement, or it's not in the collective agreement, and it's not something that we have in our practices.
Yeah, no, my question was more in the future. I know how the mileage works going from A to B if that's not your normal place. Mine was more to try to bring people in the future, we might be able to offer this as like a bonus to bring in people maybe. I know collective agreement. I'm just wondering.
So I think that's something that we can talk about as we're looking to attract people or doing those kind of things. It is a conversation though around collective agreement, but have lots of people thought exactly what you're doing about how do we attract people? Absolutely, there has been. So it's a good point as to what it is. I did hear Secretary Treasurer Thiessen talk about all the way to Powerview. I did hear her say that, so that was kind of an interesting comment. Anything more, Alicia?
No, just I'm experiencing that like at work for agencies, and that's how we're getting people to come instead of normal staff. It's all agency. They always have more money, so that's why I'm thinking about that.
Trustee Boyton?
So I'm just two questions. I'm just wondering if that was included in the budget for this year, the increase, and because it's going to run into next year's, if that's also included in next year's budget.
That's a great observation. So yeah, part of the reason why there wasn't an increase or a recommended increase in October is because the forecast of where we're looking at for mileage and claims, looking at where we're at for mileage expense currently, we are under budget where we have spent to date in the 22-23. When it comes to projections into the future for the 23-24, we didn't top up the mileage to the point where we, collectively for the 9,200, but we can see that not all the, not all the mileage expense has been spent in years past. So there is room, even in consideration, years past, when I compare COVID years, there wasn't a lot of mileage spent because we weren't seeing folks going out and about. But when we look at pre-pandemic levels, we still weren't paying that full or utilizing that full budget line. So there was room to accommodate this increase.
Good question, Trustee Boyton. Thank you. Trustee Dent?
Just a comment for reference, the province right now is paying 43 cents a kilometer. So just as a gauge, because we're provincially bargained. So.
Trustee Harris?
I don't have any comments on this.
Trustee Nicol?
Well, just let you know that we do have one collective agreement that where we pay mileage when they go from one job to the other, which is bus drivers. If we don't have enough bus drivers in Whitemouth, if we get a bus driver from Bossier and he will come from Bossier to Whitemouth, we pay mileage to that bus driver.
Thanks, Don. Trustee Rowan?
Nothing to add.
So my comment certainly was around what Lorraine was talking about what kind of cost is this going to. It's not an astronomical cost. I was concerned about it being there. We do reviews every 6 months. We do review our mileage. It's been part of our habit about going ahead and doing that. So you, Melissa, is there anything that you want to end this debate with?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So hearing no further questions, I'll call a motion. So it passed with an 8-1. Thank you for that. Promissory note to the province of Manitoba. Be it resolved that the board approve the promissory note LTP 0624 for the sum of $549,700 as outlined at the SEI roof and mechanical system. So I guess we don't have to pay them and we'll see if the roof gets done. No, I'm just kidding. So I need a mover and a seconder for the motion. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Correct? Thank you. Oh, it's okay. Any questions to the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. Thank you. We have our committee reports. So our policy chair, Trustee Boytson. There's meeting minutes. Is there anything from policy that you want to add?
Just to highlight a couple of things. The committee was tasked with the job of coming up with some language regarding public participation at the board meetings.
Diane Rowland.
Last. Oh, she did. So in the minutes, we just have some options that we're going to be presenting. But while we were reviewing the operation of bylaw, it was also noticed that one of the items under attendance at board meetings are referred to the Public Schools Act, where it talks about trustees missing 3 meetings in a row and the results of that. And we just found that that's not the right place for that to be. So we thought, being that bylaws have to have the 3 readings, we'd like to, we thought we should just do a full review then of this bylaw before we proceed with the 3 readings. So we just wanted trustees to look it over, see if there is anything that stands out, and maybe bring it to our attention. And then we'll do the full review, include the information that we're going to bring forward with the public participation, move that one item into an appropriate place, and then any other suggestions that trustees might have. So if they could, bring those forward, send them off to me, any suggestions, by our next policy meeting on April the 11th. That would be great. Policy number 16, there's going to be a notice of motion coming forward at 8.12 of our agenda. And policy number 17 was the audits, and we're waiting for some recommendations to come forward from the Finance Committee before we proceed with that item. Other than that, the rest of the items that were tasked us for this part of our policy calendar were completed.
Thank you. So Diane just left, but I do know that there's a finance meeting that's going on tomorrow. Okay, so let's go to, has there been anything since the last time that we met from the finance committee that we need to share? Anyone finance committee? Okay. So let's go to 8.12, the notice of motion. Trustee Boytson.
So no, we're just bringing forward that there will be a notice of motion at the next meeting for policy number 16, and everybody has in their information what the changes will be.
And it's self-explanatory, that's there, so thank you for going in and doing that. Any questions to the finance committee or to the policy committee? Okay, we have 8:15. The Education Foundation Committee, a verbal report. That's you, Jody?
Yeah, I'm just working with our solicitor on this project. They approached me during the budget process requesting for an updated affidavit. So I've started working with that, on that with them this week. So I'm hoping by next board meeting I could say all documents have been completed and forwarded off where applicable.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Okay. 9.0 talks about professional development, trustees' professional development. So we have the CSBA conference in Banff, July 3rd to 5th. We have two trustees, Trustee Boytson and Trustee Smith, that are requesting to attend. So just before we go through this, you know that we've set aside dollars for trustees for professional development. There is a budget that's there. Just ahead of time, from the requests that are there, will that budget then cover the costs? Are you aware of, Jody?
Based on the information, now it kind of depends on, I think, the number of staff. I didn't look at the updated board information until just now. I believe Trustee Smith, the last information I had, that you wanted to attend at BAM. So Fredericton. Okay.
So how about if I take it from here?
Sure.
So is this wrong then, Alicia, that you're not looking to attend into the Banff conference? Okay. So we have Lorraine wishing to go to Banff, and it looks like that we have, maybe it's my mistake, we have Dent and Smith wanting to go to Fredericton. Is that correct? Okay. Trustee Reed.
I thought I was talking loud. I feel a bit blindsided here. I had asked 2 weeks ago about going to the one in Fredericton, and I was told that it would be discussed at the next board meeting. And I took that at face value. And then on Thursday at the conference, the MSBA conference, I had mentioned it again to the agenda setting committee that I'd be interested in going to Fredericton. And I'd like to put my name in, and I was told, well, just wait till Tuesday and we're going to discuss it then. And I said, oh, okay. And then I'm finding out now that my name's not on the list.
So Russ, let's get it on.
Pardon me?
Let's get your name on there. So,
would be my goal, I guess.
Okay, so let's get it on. Is
I
that
thought it was
right?
a question of money, though.
Well, so, turn your microphone off. So right now, this is the exact time while we're doing it. So we have a request from trustee Boytson to go to Banff, and now we have a request, updated request for Dent, Smith, and Reed to go to Fredericton. So my question went back to Stacy. Do you know what? We have a budget to go ahead and do that. Do we? What did I do? Oh yeah, sorry, Stacy. See, everybody knew what was going on. Just kept everybody going here. Okay, so I think that part of it is that do we have the funds to go ahead and support people? And again, people can. At next meeting, somebody can come request about going to Victoria or going somewhere else. There's no deadline to this. You just need to go ahead and apply, and then the board needs to go ahead and approve. So as of right now, do we stand in the situation? So I guess, are we in good shape, Stace? Jody?
Yeah, I think the challenge, though, airfare, as we get closer to the date, airfare has gone up, and even the hotel rooms. So I just wanted to double check the information Stacey sent me regarding the costs of the conference. I just wanted to double check that. So at this point in time, I think we're looking that it's safe to say that they can go. It's just that when we look at the hotel rooms per night, they are getting more expensive as we wait. So the decision needs to be made. But I do believe there is enough room in our budget to accommodate this. After this point, though, if we send everybody, we should be fully exhausted.
All right. Trustee Boyton?
No, I was just wondering if we need to change the motion then to make it, pending approval of budgetary costs or whatever.
Well, as of right now, that Trustee Nickel, go ahead.
Well, we talk about two things. There's only one motion that's Trustee Boynton, and that's for July the 3rd and 5th, which is not this school year. It's next year's budget, so we don't have to worry about the Frederick, what they're going to cost Fredericton, because for next year's budget, that's the only money we're spending, so we should have lots of money to spend. There should be money in order to send Trustee Boynton, so why don't we decide to approve or disapprove this one and then go to the Fredericton, so we're not talking about two motions at the same time.
That's a great point, Don, and so I think that part of it is we always look to our Secretary Treasurer to talk about it, but you're right. One of the Fredericton Conference, April, May 2nd, is this year's budget, and there's 3 people that are interested in going. The July 3rd to 5th is next year's budget. We do know, we've talked about the amount of money that we have in there, so we're in pretty good shape. So I think that we can pass both. So let's go ahead and do the first one, because it's out of this year's budget, this 9.2. So be it resolved that the board approve Trustee Dent, Trustee Smith, and Trustee Reed to attend Capsule Conference April 30th to May 2nd in Fredericton, New Brunswick. No, because I'm doing that one first, because that one first is this year's budget. Okay? So yes, I did it the opposite because of this year's. So Stacy, please add, we have Dent, Smith, and Reed to attend Capsule. So if it's not in there, Stace, oh, it is now? Oh, you're awesome. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Any more comments? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Trustee Nickel.
I don't believe that there being in the overall budget there might be enough money, but we usually only set aside a certain amount for out of province trips, and there won't be enough money out in the out of province budget to send those sweeps to each of the trusts. Some of the game and your food, and you divide it amongst three, it won't be enough money. So I don't know whether you're just going to share it, and then each trustee has to take it out of their own individual budget, because each trustee has an individual budget to spend on PD.
So Don, that's a good point, but I don't think that we've ever talked about, as a board, we've talked about the group budget that we have. We haven't really talked about the individual PD money that we have. So as a board, so you're right, Don, we haven't really had a conversation, certainly generally, about it. So you're totally right. We have two sets of pots of money for trustees. Well, three actually sets of money for trustees. One is a lump sum of money. Some is some individual trustee, and some is for the MSBA conference, or that's what has been in the past. So I think Jody is telling us that we have that. So I think that what you're telling us, Jody, is that we can cover those costs. If we're underspent, we can cover those costs. If it does need to come out of individual trustee money, well, as of right now, we really haven't talked about individual trustee money. It's been lumped together. I think that would be a great opportunity for us to have that kind of a discussion at a later date, for us to do that, to have that, to go fair. But great point, Don. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment? Trustee Smith.
I'm hoping to get the student rate because still have my university card. I have used it in the past. It's half rate. It says like it doesn't expire, so we're going to try that.
All right, so the question is, Capsule, April 30th, May 2nd, Dent, Smith, and Reed. We have a motion on the table. Any other comments? We can vote electronically. Okay, let's electronically. We, just so you remember, is that we had one of our trustees had to leave the meeting, Trustee Rowland, and so we're just making sure that we can get this done electronically. So thank you. So it passed 8-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Now 9.1 is the CSBA conference, July 3rd to 5th in Banff, and be it resolved that the board approve Trustee Boydson to attend CSBA July 3rd to 5th in Banff. I need a move and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Dent. Comments? I think that she's changed it. If you refresh, it's changed, correct? Okay. Okay. The board approved to attend CSBA July 3rd to 5th. She's working on it. We will make sure that we have the motion in there that it is just for Lorraine. And it passed 8-0 with 1 abstention as well. Thank you for that. Professional development is for MSB.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Paul, you said 1 abstention. That's not correct. It should be 1 absent.
Sorry, do you know what? It is 1 absent. I was just not reading properly. My trifocals are getting a little foggy and I didn't read that far. Sorry about that, but you're right, Don. It is 1 absent. Thank you. We have MSBA annual conference, and you know, when you showed up here today, Ms. Smith, going ahead and doing this, you know what, that was pretty impressive. Did anybody else want to make comment about MSBA? Comments about the conference? Anybody want to share? Trustee Harris.
I think it was a great experience for the trustees who were able to attend. The keynote speaker was fabulous. I hope that they are able to get that online on MSBA, and I would recommend that all trustees watch it a second time and that the entire public watch that keynote speaker if and when it is put online. It was just fabulous.
I think a lot of us are going to take away from the chief out from Saskatchewan, him talking about his alignment and using his hands, where people got a real good understanding of, you know, in the 60s scoop and the residential school, and got a way better understanding of why people are struggling, and they're struggling because they haven't had grandparents and they haven't had parents teach anybody how to be parents. So pretty strong message. And he was also fun. What's that? He was fun to listen to, and he spoke very well. So yes, thank you for great comments, Robin. Anyone else? Trustee Smith?
Just want to say I didn't have time to rehearse what I said. I did that at work within the last half hour, so hopefully it was okay.
No, it was awesome. Thank you for doing that. Divisional summary report. We don't have one. Board correspondence. Nice to know information. Upcoming meetings. So Stacy, can you please add the April 27th, I think is the meeting that we talked about, that we're going to go ahead and have a learning session. We have the Northeast Foreman that we're hosting on May the 8th. And questions from the public then. Jody, do we have any questions from the public?
No, nothing's come through.
So we are going to go into in-camera. I'll get to you in a minute. We do not believe that we're going to have any motions coming out of in-camera, but we will be in camera for a little bit. Trustee Smith.
I just had a question. We had that one ad hoc committee that was waiting until after a budget. Are we going to start laying dates for that too?
So that ad hoc committee was about the boundary review, and we tabled that? Oh, the compensation committee. Thank you for that. So Lorraine and I did meet with Jody at MSBA. Jody and Lorraine now are going to communicate. Lorraine is the chair of that committee. Who else is on that committee? You are. Who else? Diane is, and Dawn, you're on that committee. So Lorraine will inform you, certainly as she communicates with Jody and Kathy about that. But we did meet. We're going to end up spending some, Jody from MSBA is going to spend some time out here, certainly meeting with some of our staff. But we did set a time up for Lorraine to communicate. Go ahead.
And actually, we were just waiting for Jody and Kathy to confirm their date so that we could see what else was available for Jody's time.
Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. But Lorraine will take the reins for that and meet with the committee and then come back to the board with progress reports and where we are. Thanks for that. So we have no questions from the public. We're going to move into in-camera. So we'll go ahead and do that now.
Do we expect to finish in 15 minutes? Or we have to...
We probably should extend our meeting. Get a motion. Smith, Boytson, Dent, Harris, Magna, and Nicol. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into in-camera. Thanks, Lars.